I now call the open council meeting of Monday, August 24th, 2020 back to order and ask that everyone make sure their cell phones are turned off for the duration of the meeting. I'd like to ask the acting clerk to provide a report concerning matters discussed during the earlier closed session.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. There was one item on the closed agenda this evening, and on that item, Council received a report from the Economic Development Manager regarding a proposed land sale, and Council provided him with direction on that matter. For those watching at home, all members of Council are in attendance. Councillors Bush and Price are in Council chambers along with the Mayor, and the others are attending electronically. Mayor Wilson declared a conflict of interest on agenda item 14C as he's related to the owner of CERS.
Thank you. We have no delegations this evening. We have no presentations. We have one public notice, which the acting clerk will review.
Okay, our notice this evening pertains to the upcoming traffic and parking changes around St. Joseph's School. Effective September 1st, a maximum speed school zone will be in effect from Colonization Avenue to 97.5 meters west of the west leg of Park Crescent with a reduced speed limit of 40 kilometers per hour. The restrictions will be in effect from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday to Friday from September 1st to June 30th of each year when the signals are flashing. Also effective September 1st during school times, the current no parking area on the east side of Evergreen Place from Parkdale Road to 95 meters north of Parkdale Road will become a no stopping area, and the current school bus loading zone on the west side of Evergreen Place will become a no parking area. Additionally, a no stopping area will be created on the north side of Parkdale Road from the intersection of Evergreen Place to 35 meters east of Evergreen Place, and vehicles traveling southbound on Evergreen Place will be prohibited from turning left onto Parkdale Road.
Thank you. We are now at consent agenda part 1, general, and I'd like to ask the acting clerk to conduct this section.
Okay. We've got 2 items under consent agenda part 1 this evening, and I'll review them and then ask if any member of council would like to speak to them or sever them for separate voting. Tonight we have the minutes of the July 13th Committee of the Whole meeting and the July 27th Council meeting to be adopted. Does anyone wish to speak to either of these or sever them for separate voting? Doesn't look like it. Okay, in that case, can I have someone move and second the consent agenda part 1 motion, please? Councillor Price. Oh, Councillor Bush. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Price, seconded by Councillor Bush. The Council do hereby consider the following items of the consent agenda part 1, general, under date of August 24th, 2020, as read and adopted. 10A and B.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Okay, thank you.
Carried. We're now at consent agenda part 2, bylaws, and I'd like to ask the acting clerk to conduct this section of the agenda.
Okay, again, I'll review the bylaws under consent agenda part 2, and when I'm done, I will again ask if any member of council would like to speak to them or have anything severed for separate voting. Bylaw 4754-2020 is a bylaw to amend Chapter 150 of the City's Municipal Code by deleting Bullet A from Section 8 and replacing it with the following. Within the limits of the City of Dryden, no person shall park a vehicle on any highway from the hour of 12 midnight on the last Sunday of October to 12 midnight on the first Sunday of the following April between the hours of 12 midnight and 7 a.m. Bylaw 4756-2020 is a bylaw to authorize the execution of a land use agreement between Mr. Walter Thomas Clark and the City of Dryden to allow Mr. Clark to access his property from Inverness Drive by way of city property for an additional period of 3 years. Bylaw 4757-2020 is a bylaw to authorize the execution of a lease agreement between the City of Dryden and CERS Investments for approximately 1,100 square meters of land at the Dryden Regional Airport. Bylaw 4758-2020 is a bylaw to amend the city's policy and procedure manual by adding the tree canopy and natural vegetation policy. Bylaw 4759/2020 is a bylaw to amend council's procedural bylaw by allowing for electronic participation at open and closed committee of the whole and council meetings, and to state that members participating electronically count in establishing quorum. This comes out of Bill 197, which allows councils to make these changes to their procedural bylaws on a full-time basis, as was temporarily allowed during the COVID pandemic. Bylaw 4760/2020 is a bylaw to rescind bylaw 3626/2008 to amend the city's municipal code by deleting chapter 15 animals and to adopt a new feeding of wildlife bylaw. Bylaw 4761/2020 is a bylaw to rescind bylaw 3971/2012 to amend the city's municipal code by deleting chapter 186 records retention and to adopt a new records retention bylaw. And bylaw 4762/2020 is a bylaw appointing me as acting clerk for the city of Dryden from September 1, 2020 to February 28, 2021. Are there any of these bylaws that members would like to speak to or have severed for a separate vote? Councillor McKinnon is his hand up. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yes, I would like separated for discussion vote 4754
Sorry,
and 4759.
Sorry, can you repeat the numbers?
4754
Thank you.
and 475.
475, what is the second one?
9.
Nice, thank you. Like bingo here. Did anybody else have anything? Were you severing to discuss or to vote?
Vote.
Both, thank you. Okay, so we're severing those two. No one else had anything? Okay, so I'm going to remove 4754 and 59 from here. All right, so we will sever 54 and 59, but in the meantime, I'd be looking for someone to move and second the consent agenda Part 2 resolution, please. Councillor McKay, Councillor Carlucci. Okay. Moved by Councillor McKay, seconded by Councillor Carlucci, that Council consider Section 14 of the Consent Agenda Part 2 bylaws under the date of August 24th, 2020, which includes the following bylaws as read a first, second, and third time. Bylaw 4756/2020, Bylaw 4757/2020, Bylaw 4758/2020, Bylaw 4760/2020, Bylaw 4761/2020, and Bylaw 4762/2020.
No, I cannot vote on,
You cannot
C.
vote. You cannot
Right.
vote on C, but you can
Right.
ask all in favor.
okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. So we are now back to the regular agenda, which is out of consent. Each item on the regular agenda will be presented individually to council. We'll now look at those severed items. And the clerk will conduct this section.
Thanks. Okay, let us begin then with 4754, and we'll let Councillor Shane McKinnon speak to that one first, please.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If I don't get through, will you stop me and I'll restate whatever I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm opposed to this bylaw on two fronts. Dryden, the streets of Dryden belong to the residents of Dryden. And this bylaw restricts the use of those streets necessarily, in my opinion. We've heard from the Board of Works that some folks interfere with snow How many is it every snowfall? In In 2019, the Dryden Police Service linked 11 interfere with snow removal tickets for the whole year. How many times did Board of Works call them? It doesn't seem reasonable to restrict parking under these conditions. In 2019, we had snowfall less than half the days of November, December, January, February, and March. So 15 days of those half could be considered, and that being generous, snow removal days, or 7 days out of the 30. And then we are not plowing every street in one night. And Mr. Poole can correct me if I'm wrong. So it takes maybe 3 nights to plow every street in Dryden. So a typical residential street would be plowed 3 times a month, optimistically. So for 151 days during those months, you're not allowed to park in front of your property because it may be plowed 12 times during that period. I think that's optimistic too. It's 12 times throughout the course of the winter, but I stand to be corrected. I don't think that we've done any education other than reading notice from council chambers for anyone in Dryden about interfering with snow removal. I don't see us doing any campaigns. I've never seen anything, literature go out for residents. Now, the other thing that they object to in this proposed bylaw is the time of night that this bylaw takes effect. There are many folks still out of their homes during normal times, during COVID times, and they're active, they're visiting, they're working, they're babysitting, etc. at midnight, and probably up until 3 in the morning when most places of entertainment close. So rather than adjusting our Board of Works night to this reality, we impose an unreasonably early time to accommodate them. We don't own the streets, the residents do. So I oppose this bylaw.
You're chairing, right? No? Okay. Just checking. Anyone else? Any other comments, questions? Councillor Bush?
Yes, this bylaw was obviously, this was obviously proposed by city staff to aid in, as we heard before, to aid in safe removal of snow and avoid all of the issues that were brought up. So I'd like to hear from the CAO and our Public Works Manager with respect to the necessity for the bylaw and I guess in part to respond to Councillor McKinnon's comments.
Roger?
Your Worship, I can provide I guess my thoughts on it. The current bylaw that we have in place has over 46 streets identified as restricted parking. And I think if you pose the question to Public Works, there's more streets that are required in order to do an efficient and safe snow removal operation through the winter. The other issue with the current bylaw is that there's a time-based restriction, meaning that it states that a vehicle can be parked within restricted areas between a certain time for a period of time, which then gets extremely onerous for enforcement of infractions, because you then have to basically chalk tires to determine how long that vehicle's being parked in that restricted zone. We run into that complication from a parking enforcement standpoint all over the city. So those are some of the primary reasons why we were looking at changes to this bylaw. Simplifies the bylaw and allows a much easier method of enforcement.
How aggressive would officers be in terms of ticketing? I'm thinking, there's no snow in in the forecast, some people are parking, for example, I know on, by the railway on Queen, you know, people will park there and can get ticketed. They're concerned about it. Like, how aggressively do we enforce this when there's no snow?
Realistically, enforcement gets done when Public Works Operations calls for it.
Okay. Anyone else?
I have a comment.
Yes, go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, there's, Shane said, there may have been only to give it a test, at the police service. I don't know exactly how many they gave. But, that shows not giving tickets 150 a year. They're giving tickets when people in the way, on our snow. We do have, citizens are looking about some more side streets, people parking on their street. That's because they're putting out later. If they have too many vehicles or they're rent. So I could go 3 streets, get common complaints. Just the downtown, basically, not park down there, occasional tickets. But the point of that bylaw to tell them when they can park the streets is to ensure people aren't or snow plowing, sanding, items like that.
Okay, you cut out quite a bit there, Blake, but I think we got the gist of it.
Sorry, I could hear it as well.
Okay. Councillor Shane McKinnon?
Thank you. And just to restate, I have no problem with the bylaw as it is currently, where we restrict parking and facilitate parking in the downtown core and those 47 streets, but we're trying to take it to every street in the whole city. I mean, I think that's excessive. You know, we let people park on the street. Not everybody has a driveway. Not everybody can accommodate 2 or 3 vehicles. You know, people that are working, people are babysitting, people are visiting, and I don't think that we have enough of those. If we had a snowfall, it would be an issue. But you get the enforcement people, you can pretty well tell when somebody interfered with snow removal, they get a ticket. And hopefully they don't do it again. Let's educate people rather than penalize everyone.
Anyone else? Okay, so
Okay, so there were no other comments on this. So shall I read this, or have someone move and second this resolution for bylaw 4754? We'll count the hands. Councillor Carlucci, and someone to second it, please.
I'll second.
Councillor Bush, thank you. Okay, moved by Councillor Carlucci, seconded by Councillor Bush, that bylaw 4754, 2020 being a bylaw to amend Chapter 150, Parking and Traffic, of the Municipal Code of the Corporation of the City of Dryden, to allow for amended parking restrictions be read a first, second, and third time.
all in favor? Okay. All opposed? Okay. 1. Councillor Shane McKinnon.
Okay.
All right, motion's passed.
Okay, thank you. And then Councillor Shane McKinnon on bylaw 4759, please.
Thank you. Simply enough, I have objected to this bylaw in the past and the elements of this bylaw, which I believe should start during the beginning of the term of next council. Simply enough. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch all that. What was?
He believes the change should be begin at the beginning of the next term of council. Is that correct, Councillor?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any comments, questions, anyone? Councillor Bush?
Yes, I'd just like to, I guess I somewhat understand Councillor McKinnon's initial objections dialing back a couple of months ago. But since that time, one important change has been made in the province. And that important change has been to expand the use of both open session and closed session council meetings. And the province now has gone beyond the Emergency Act and has stipulated that open and closed meetings can be adopted by municipalities. And so that's a change from the original discussion time that we had on this when there were more restrictions in place for the meetings. And it's apparent that the government has realized through the COVID-19 pandemic that electronic meetings are really the wave of the future. And so I personally don't see any need to wait for any time to go by to implement basically what the province has now legislated is available to not only Dryden but to all municipalities in the province. So I think it's just time for Dryden to get on with the times and move forward with the staff report and with the bylaw as we discussed last week.
Thank you. Any other comments, anyone? Councillor Shane McKinnon?
Thank you. After some context that we've made, it might be a good example. Us, the back burner until we online meetings. I understand Councillor Bush's comment.
I have a couple of questions, I guess, for council on this. Councillor Bush, I'm not sure if your comments were basically saying you're fine with the whole thing or not, but I was just wondering about item number 8 and also item number 15. So it says members wishing to attend a meeting electronically shall provide a written email 1 week in advance of the scheduled meeting. So it makes life easier for everybody when you know in advance. But I'm also thinking that there are times when someone realizes they can't make it back in time. I'd like to see more flexible wording concerning written notice of electronic attendance here, and I'm wondering if it's possible under the current wording that a councillor may not be allowed to participate electronically if they miss the 1 week notice, even by a day or two, some emergency comes up. So I'm just wondering how council feels about that, and I feel councillors should be able to participate if they're able to connect electronically and given even same day or 48-hour notice. So that's my thought on that one, and I'm curious to know what others think. And on item 15, it says that if an electronic connection is lost during any meeting, which happens to us, happened tonight, no effort will be made to reconnect by either the member of the city, and the member attending electronically shall be considered to have left the meeting at the point of disconnection. If quorum is lost due to the electronic connection being lost, the meeting will be halted and rescheduled. And so I'd like to see more flexibility there. There are times when an electronic connection is lost and can be quickly reestablished by the councillor, a lot of times without any involvement by administration. So I'd hate to see somebody for some reason get kicked out and they can reestablish, but it's possible for them technically to, but because of this bylaw, they might not be allowed to, or they wouldn't be allowed back. So I'm just wondering what everyone's thoughts are on those two items. I don't know, Councillor Bush, if you were mentioning about getting with the times. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, through the chair, just I guess my recent experience of about an hour ago was I was dropped 3 times by I don't know who, Microsoft or whoever it was, and I automatically got reconnected, and another time I just reconnected, and it was kind of seamless. If I recall our last discussion at the COW meeting, Roger, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the discussion at that point was, well, if it's a simple thing just to get back in, we don't have to disrupt the meeting or interrupt the meeting for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, then those simple practical things can take place. And so when I read this, I just also read into it that quick reconnects that don't take a lot of time, don't interrupt the meeting would still be allowed, but I'd like to hear from our CAO in terms of whether I understood that correctly.
Sure, through your worship, that was, I think, the gist of the conversation at the committee of the whole meeting, was that those seamless, unintrusive reconnects may happen throughout a meeting. The technology that we use doesn't prohibit any meeting attendee to reconnect, whether it's council or staff for that matter. I think the important things to really consider are meeting disruptions, where we're having to pause meetings to attempt reconnections for meeting participants, or where we have quorum formed through remote attendees. If we have a technical issue where we lose that quorum, at that point the meeting would have to be halted and rescheduled to ensure, I think, fairness for any council member to attend the portion of the meeting or portion of the agenda that was missed.
I know it's difficult with all these what ifs, but if the technical problem was on our side and say we lost everybody, but it was something that we could fix, we could reestablish, then this wording would make it null and void, right? Like, is there some, in your mind, is there some way that we can reword it so that that we can allow that to happen?
I think
Does it
Your
make
Worship,
sense?
You hit the nail on the head with there's a lot of what ifs, and in order to, I think, deal with all the what ifs, we kind of have to have that language to say that if there's a significant issue and we lose quorum, then the meeting has to be done and it has to be rescheduled, because at that point there could be lots of what ifs. There could be what ifs if certain council members don't stay within that electronic meeting to reconnect, and there are a lot of what ifs, and I think it's easier to just have language in there that says we will have to reschedule the meeting at a later date and
Okay.
more or less start over if quorum is lost.
So probably like the previous one with the snow plowing, if you're not looking to make a lot of money, generate a lot of revenue by ticketing people when there's no forecast for snow. And so the same with this, that you need to have something there. That's the purpose of wording it this way. So for example, it says if quorum is lost due to the electronic connection being lost, it doesn't say that it's permanently lost or 2 minutes later it came back. That's what you're saying. There is flexibility. Interpretation for flexibility here based on where we're at. Or do you even want to not want to say that?
There could be.
Yeah. Should be a politician. Okay.
Your Worship?
Councillor Bush?
Yes, through the chair. And I think we had a practical example recently with the teleconference set up with Sandra Gogol, where we were having a lot of trouble connecting, and because everybody was there and available, we all collectively made the decision at that time, because you had the right number of people around, to say, well, let's keep trying and see if we can't make this go within the allotted time versus rescheduling. And so I could imagine, depending on the nature of the incident, the group could decide best efforts to provide a reasonable effort, and if it didn't look practical, then we just reschedule. I think practically that's kind of how these things actually play out.
So we feel, other councillors, do you feel comfortable with the wording? The intent of this bylaw? Councillor Carlucci?
Yeah, for the mayor. For me, it's there's a policy in place that has a process. So, and I think common sense kicks in here eventually. That if it's something that's an easy fix, then we deal with it. And on the term of a week's notice, for me, you're right. If something comes up and you need to dial in, I don't think there'll be an issue with the people. But again, there needs to be a policy and a process in place to make that policy work. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. I see in number 8, you know, you can interpret that with flexibility built in. I think it's number 15 is probably the one I'm more concerned about, because it says no effort will be made to reconnect by either the member of the city, and the member attending electronically shall be considered to have left the meeting. So it just sounds so definite, like there's going to be no effort made to reconnect. Is that how administration is wanting that to go? Roger?
Your worship, I guess I would pose the question back to council. At what point then do we deem somebody to have left the meeting?
Right, so then for flexibility, what I'm thinking is even whether you had the chair determine, or the chair and the clerk, or whoever's left in council to decide, let's, you know, that person is gone, they're not coming, don't try anymore, let's keep moving. It seems to have worked okay so far. We've made some reasonable efforts, and if it doesn't work, okay, they're gone, and we keep on moving, because we don't want to restrict the flow of the meeting, right? So I like that, but when it says no effort will be made to reconnect, then it sounds so hard and fast. Roger?
Again, through the chair, I think we've had similar wording in our procedural bylaw all along since the inception of electronic council meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't had any issues to date living by that wording.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. This job doesn't pay as much as that one, so I wouldn't recommend it. Okay. So. All right. Any other comments? All right. So, can we continue then on a vote?
Then I'd be looking for someone to move and second the motion for this. Oh, Councillor Carlucci and Councillor McKay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Carlucci, second by Councillor McKay, the bylaw 4759-2020 being a bylaw to amend Chapter 47, Council Procedures of the City of Dryden Municipal Code by amending Schedule F, electronic participation at open council and committee of the whole meetings, be read a first, second, and third time.
All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. I'd like to call upon Ms. Godden to present her report.
Evening, Council. I'm just going to turn the on to my end. I'm just here to present a policy on mandatory use of face masks. It essentially mirrors what the Northwest Health Unit put out last week. Due to the timing of the policy, we put it out to the municipality last Monday, so it is now in effect. I've been making my way, going to each department, providing education and answering any questions that staff might have. I don't think there's anything unusual from this policy. I believe if you've been keeping up with the media, you have already known everything that is in the policy. So now I'll open to questions.
Any questions, comments by anyone? No? Did a great job then, Liz.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Can I have somebody move and second the resolution for this bylaw, please? Councillor Martin McKinnon and Councillor Bush, thank you. Moved by Councillor Martin McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Bush, the bylaw 4765-2020 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3529-2007, the bylaw to adopt the City of Dryden Corporate Policy and Procedure Manual by adding the following policy under section Human Resources, HRHS 56, mandatory use of face masks policy, be read a first, second, and third time.
All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. I'd like to call upon Ms. Pateman to present her report, user fees and charges.
Good evening, There's a staff package that was submitted by Steve Lansdale Road regarding the user charges schedule. In addition, airport parking was added to the schedule, which didn't exist before. The recommendation council approves an amendment to the Schedule B of Chapter 14, the fees and charges or code of the credit.
Any questions, comments, anyone? Pretty straightforward. So it's just adding the monthly. All right.
Okay, no questions, I'll ask for somebody to move in second. Councillor Martin McKinnon and Councillor Price. Moved by Councillor Martin McKinnon, second by Councillor Price, that bylaw 4763-2020 being a bylaw to amend Chapter 72 fees and charges of the Municipal Code of the Corporation of the City of Dryden by amending Schedule B Airport to add under category, vehicle parking, under description, auto parking per month, and under fee/charge, $130 be read a first, second, and third time.
All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. I'd like to call upon Mr. Poole to present his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll try and make this because I can hear the echo and there's me as well. So, this report has been put forward for the 2021 funding. The city has not the agreement yet. The connecting link signed. However, MTA go forward. Council will connect. The wording will be the same as 2019 with. So I'd also like to have talked to the clerk about the paving and paving for the paving. And we basically have a contractor just looking for the time to put it all together to have the overpass closed when as little as. So we're looking probably September to work there, and it probably will only take weeks. We'll close lane probably down, and during the day. So that's my report. It's just to approve the agreement with MT for the money.
Okay, that was hard to hear you. A lot of skipping there, Blake. Sorry about that, but we have the report in front of us. Are there any questions or comments by council?
It's great to see it.
Yeah, this is good news. So,
Okay,
awesome.
With this report, we have two bylaws, so I will ask for somebody to move and second bylaw 4764, please. Councillor Shane McKinnon and Councillor Bush, thank you. Okay, so moved by Councillor Shane McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Bush, the bylaw 4764-2020 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a Connecting Links program contribution agreement between Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Transportation and the Corporation of the City of Dryden for the provision of funding under the Connecting Links program to undertake the Duke Street Highway 594 overpass project within the City of Dryden be read a first, second, and third time.
All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.
And then we would need somebody to move and second the second bylaw, please, or resolution, please. Councillor Price and Councillor Carlucci. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Price, seconded by Councillor Carlucci, that bylaw 4767-2020 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between Lower Northwest and the Corporation of the City of Dryden for the provision of paving for the Connecting Links Duke Street Highway 594 overpass project be read a first, second, and third time.
All in favor?
Okay.
Carried. Thank you. Okay, we have no notices of motion this evening, and we have no motions. Looking for reports of municipal officers. CAO, Roger?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just as council knows, the City of Dryden participated in supporting Red Lake residents in their in their time of need during a recent evacuation of the community. Just want to point out to council what a tremendous show of support the area provided those Red Lake residents, and you know, I just want council to be aware how proud I am of our community's support, and how proud I am of our staff's efforts down at the arena. We provided both evacuee registration and temporary sheltering down at the arena. Not something that we do all the time by any means. So to do that for just about a week in duration was a bit of a feat for us, but we made it through, and happy to see all the Red Lake residents back in their community, back in their homes, safe and sound. And then just the other point that I'll make to council, I had the pleasure of attending the first ever virtual AMO conference this past week. I've been to a couple conferences down in Ottawa, so this virtual conference was a necessity due to COVID, but they pulled it off very, very well. I was impressed with a lot of the content, a lot of the sessions that AMO organized, and the quality of the presenters. Very, very well done. So I look forward to more annual conferences. Not sure whether they'll be virtual or in person, but I guess either way, I'll look forward to them. So thank you.
And it helps out our budget a bit.
It absolutely does.
And another good thing about, you know, just thinking silver lining on that cloud of the Red Lake evacuation, just getting communication from Wabigoon, you know, small community of Wabigoon reaching out to us and saying that they'd like to help if they can for other emergencies. So they were looking for contacts, and Roger was obliging to them. So that's just really good to hear and to see, and thanks to Wabigoon. Treasurer, Chelsea, are you representing Stephen?
I believe so.
Any report?
I don't believe there's anything to report at this time.
All right, thank you. And Allison?
As Roger mentioned, the week of August the 10th was very busy with several administration department employees working at the Arena Evacuation Center in addition to carrying out their normal duties. And I'd like to publicly thank them for going above and beyond that week to help out with the event. Currently work is underway that should make our setup and registration at any future evacuation centers go even more smoothly. And work has begun on our 2021 operating budgets for cemetery, council, and administration, and this will be going on for several more weeks.
Thank you. Blake, Public Works?
I do have a report, but I think you'll understand.
Sure.
So I'll send it out tomorrow.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Manager of Community Services, Steve?
In appreciating the echo, which I hear, but I'll try to keep it. Of course, we had our meeting of the gym and reopening of the gym. Numbers lower than anticipated, but basically 206 visits last. If we look back at the last year, 400. I was targeted to birds. We didn't quite hit there, but our numbers increasing, and the response was very good from our staff, from our patrons. We're feeling very in the building. We expect to continue to climb as word gets up and share their thoughts. So again, we're hoping for a week. We're moving forward, and we're preparing a video, which basically going from the front into the building up on equipment to show exactly how our operations in this time, because we hope to feel a little more with regards to groups over on the, still dealing with rather honored as we try to meet for a nice. Most of our group are looking at October, but we do have for late September. I'll have a meeting to the September to discuss. Special thank you to everyone on the evacuation of the arena. Some people got the work that, and thanks for all the responses we've so our floor is officially complete. It looks fantastic. Can't wait to let back in the building and see it. So that is one project that the recreation had for 2020, and a completely done stuff. The dream for the significant contribution of the exploring project in Galilee. That's a $100,000 project and 2/3 of the cost. Thank you to everyone who donated to dream over the course to make that project come. Can't wait to let it. Very pleased. And our last, waiting for our 8 unit to be installed. Our last project that should be coming in.
Steve? Steve, Yeah, Steve, I'm thinking you might want to do this one next week. We're just finding it very difficult to hear.
Sure.
But thank you. We'll try another one. The fire chief, is he there? Rob?
I'm here. Is my audio any better?
So far, so good. You may want to turn your video off, and maybe that'll help.
Okay. Just to follow on Roger's comments about the evacuation. No, I'm getting people shaking their heads. Oh, I can say it's up there as well.
Sure. Okay, thank you. So, great. So, Council, I'll just share some comments, and then we'll see who can come through on your side. Three things. One, at our annual Association of Municipalities of Ontario conference this week, which Roger was referring to, Councillors Marty McKinnon and John Carlucci joined City of Dryden CAO Roger Nesbitt, the Treasurer Stephen Lansdale-Roll, and myself on Tuesday for an online meeting with Minister of Long-Term Care Marilee Fullerton to discuss the Kenora District Municipal Levy for Home for the Aged. And our point was that the Home for the Aged levy formula doesn't count or include people from unorganized territories, or what is officially known as townships without municipal organization. Our dilemma in the north, compared to southern Ontario, is that we have a large rural population that eventually comes to depend on long-term health care here in town, for example. And if their numbers aren't factored into funding formulas for municipalities by the province, the way that they are with the DSABs and the health unit, for example, we northern communities will have an unfair financial burden placed on us, unlike southern Ontario. So I would add that this isn't a new problem. Our administrator for the District of Kenora Home for the Aged, Kevin Queen, has been trying to get the attention of the province since 2007. And we're hoping our new current government will finally amend the funding formula to reflect the realities of Northern Ontario rural living and how that impacts us as a community. So the results of the meeting, basically Minister Fullerton acknowledged our point and asked her Chief of Staff, who also attended the meeting, to continue dialogue with us. And secondly, I am not on Facebook, but I've been told that the folks who want to see the street name of Colonization Avenue changed because of its association with French and British immigration to our country and the negative impact it had on Indigenous peoples, especially through Canadian government policy over the past 2 centuries, have recently increased lobbying efforts through social media. So we will let the working circle, which was created through the efforts of Councillor Bush earlier this summer, get up and running so that Council has a means of moving forward on the matter of local reconciliation as per the federal government's Truth and Reconciliation mandate. Council needs a structured vehicle and proper processes put in place for the sake of ensuring fair, open, and respectful dialogue in the community. So the city's in the process of creating the working circle comprised of both Indigenous and non-Indigenous residents of the community, and I'm expecting a public update sometime in the next month, so please stay tuned. I'd like to add that our town is fortunate to have such an active and engaged friendship center that continues to provide practical help to newcomers, valued services to our citizens, and guidance to political and business leaders where it can. And at the risk of naming some and missing others, I'd also like to acknowledge the many volunteers who pitch in both regularly and during a crisis. On a regular basis, we have faithful volunteers at places like Darn, the Dryden Food Bank, volunteer parents and individuals serving the sports community. You think baseball, soccer, hockey, ski club, fishing derbies, you name it. And I'd be here all night if I tried to name them all, and the ways that they show how much they care for others who live here. But then there are those also ready to pitch in during a crisis, as Roger was mentioning. I'd like to thank both those who serve the public as vocation. You think of police and paid firefighters, ambulance and other medical personnel. And then there are the volunteers who do similar frontline work, as well as average everyday citizens who call on us. They called us up during the forest fire evacuation from Red Lake, and they asked how they could help. And it's unfortunate, and I'd say kind of heartbreaking, that in this day of insurance liability, litigation, and legal advice, the city's limited in its ability to utilize your time, your energy, training, and skills, but your generosity of spirit is always appreciated. And last, the city regularly receives calls and emails from citizens that include everything from safety and infrastructure concerns to aesthetic improvement ideas. And last week, one community member pointed out a potential hazard area, while another made suggestions on how we could improve on our vegetation maintenance procedures. And I just want to thank everyone who helps keep our town clean and safe by sharing your concerns and your ideas with Public Works, administration, and council. This is your town, and we appreciate hearing from you. Councillor Bush, did you have any comments?
Yes. Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of comments this evening. First of all, I think it's very exciting to see the face of Dryden changing right before our eyes in a very positive way. And I think we're all very aware of what's going on at the corner of King and Earl. That building is coming along really, really well. It's providing us with a new, fresh look, and I'm sure once that building is completed, people entering the city through the underpass, their first impression of Dryden is going to be much, much different and much more positive than it was even a couple of months ago when we still had the old Central Hotel up. So that's a great thing to see. And also great to see and exciting to see the groundbreaking taking place on the new EMS ambulance building on the site of the old Moose Hall. So coming in from the other side of town over the overpass, in a few short months, I believe, that we're going to be able to see a brand new building there as well. So Dryden's getting a fresh new look, and I think that's really in line with our strategic plan and all of the other positive things that we can see happening. So kudos to KDSB and the folks building those buildings and everybody associated with improving the look of our town. Secondly, Your Worship, you had mentioned the working circle. Councillor Shane McKinnon, Councillor Price, our CAO Roger Nesbitt, and I are all privileged to be working on that working circle, and everybody has got their nose to the grindstone on that. Pleased to say that we're going to be continuing to work at bringing on some Indigenous folks onto that working circle. We're having discussions last week and this week, so hopefully within a month we'll be able to present a pretty positive report to Council in terms of where we are with the working circle and the terms of reference that everybody that I've just mentioned on the group who's putting all the time and effort in will be able to bring forward and get Council's approval. So looking to do that hopefully in September or as soon as we can. Lastly, I just want to give some kudos to the fire department, to Chief Grimwood and to Liz Godin and Dexter Hoop and also Kent Reedman. They took the time and the effort to show some young people what it's really like to be in a fire hall and all of the equipment and what it all does, and made a very lasting impression on a bunch of young people. And maybe down the road there'll be future firefighters in their own respective communities. So thanks very much, Chief, to the efforts of you and your team. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Price?
Yes, Councillor Bush actually touched on quite a few things that I wanted to speak on myself. As being across the street from the new development, it certainly is changing changing the landscape of downtown, and I'm very excited to see how it's going to actually draw people back into our downtown core. And then once again, I follow that path for the EMS building that is going up, and I'm very excited when the fence went up and now the ground is up, and I'm super excited to see where that's going to take us. Also, very proud to be part of the working circle. It's very near and dear to my heart, and I think it is going to once again change how our community not only looks, but what our community is all about. So I'm very, very proud to be part of that. Just wanted to bring up, I'm part of one of the groups that I belong to is the Dryden Fall Fest. It's comprised of several young ladies, and Councillor Carlucci, I'll throw you in there as well. And basically, it's a group of ladies that got together and realized that Dryden needed something for our fall season, and they've come up with this amazing idea to celebrate generally what fall is all about. So on the 17th is Harvest Hay Day. There is a huge a calendar out available now. I think it's on Facebook. And then on the 24th, there's Laura Hall Hunt, which is going to be one of the best things ever. Anyone out there looking for volunteers on that. So if you want to throw on a goblin outfit and you know, try your best at being a monster, they would love for that. And they're also looking for donations to do at Laura Hall Marsh. And then the third one is the trunk or treat. So we're really unsure where Halloween is taking us for our little ones right now. And this is a great idea where it's basically what's going to happen is it's going to be once again at Laura Hall Marsh, and the trunks are open and you can deliver your candy right to the little kids for those who are comfortable for coming out. So those three things are happening over the Fall Fest, and like I said, they are looking for volunteers, so if anyone out there has some extra time that they can spare, just give me a call or stop in at the store and I will gladly pass on the rest of the information to you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Carlucci?
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. And Michelle, thank you. I just brought the average age up of that committee, so just so you know what I'm doing. A couple of things. I also attended the virtual ABOS conference. And I do, my concurrent session was on building Aboriginal relationships. So I'm going to forward that information to the working circle. So just so you know, that's coming. Secondly, I'm so proud of the town, the way they pulled together during the evacuation process. And I mean, kudos to the staff, the council, the citizens of Dryden, all the organizations. I mean, it made me pretty proud to be part of this council and to be a part of this community. So kudos to all of you for doing that.
All right, thank you. Councillor Shane McKinnon?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have 3 items. The first one is that I would like to thank the provincial and the federal government for their $433,000 COVID fund into the city of Dryden. That's $164,000 from the government and $269,000 from the provincial government. Also, their transit donation of $15,770, which was split equally between the province and the federal government. Secondly, I'd like to thank Lloyd Nafish and those involved in creating the educational video on the Colonization Avenue controversy. I encourage everyone to watch this video, which is very well done and very informative. And lastly, sadly, we have lost a quiet hero from our community, retired fire chief Louis Maltese, who I believe was our first full-time fire chief, passed away a few days ago. Chief Maltese was instrumental in bringing the Dryden Fire Department into the modern era by his efforts to replace our old fire station with the new Fire Hall Police Building at 64 King Street. He saw improvements in bunker gear, fire vehicles, new and much needed Jaws of Life equipment, as well as increased firefighter training. And completion of his mission to have every employee of the city of Dryden trained in first aid and CPR. We may never know how many lives he saved in our community through his efforts, and those of our dedicated volunteer firefighters, but we are a better community because of his dedication to our city. My condolences to his son Daniel and the Maltese family. Thank you, Chief Maltese. Rest easy.
Thank you. Councillor McKay.
Yeah, I'd like to just say that I agree with everything my fellow councillors have said today in their comments, and wholeheartedly, and I guess that's it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And Councillor Martin McKinnon.
Yeah, I'll keep it short because the reverb on this has been terrible tonight, and I've understood about 10% of what everybody's just finished saying, so I'll hold off on my comments till next month. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a confirmatory bylaw. Madam Clerk.
Yes, and I have someone move and someone to second the confirmatory bylaw for this meeting. Councillor Carlucci. And another hand, please. Councillor Bush, thank you. Moved by Councillor Carlucci, seconded by Councillor Bush, that bylaw 4766-2020 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council be read a first, second, and third time.
All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
And you need someone to make a motion and second for adjournment.
Councillor Price and Councillor Bush, thank you. Moved by Councillor Price, seconded by Councillor Bush, that this meeting do hereby adjourn.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
So just, has something changed with our system? Because it seems